All right. So I want to begin our conversation before we get into your good work is asking you this. Living through that pandemic 4.5 years ago or so, we're going into a new year. How did you get through that time period, and how many ripples did it create in the work that you're doing right now?
Sure. Well, there's a great question, Joe. Man, hit me out of the park. Okay, so I had a coffee shop, okay, and it was just takeaway. There
Yeah.
was no food served, so my business actually went up
Yeah.
for a few reasons. There was lots of coffee places around the place, but I always made a point of remembering people's names, and their coffees, and kind of the last conversation we had. And I'd always keep a logbook of the people and my customers, so I could just pick it back up. Because what I realized, Joe, was all people really needed was maybe 30 or 40 seconds of quality time with a complete stranger, and they felt known. He remembered my name, my coffee, the last conversation we had, and he genuinely cared.
Yeah.
So in the pandemic, when people started becoming disconnected, they started to really appreciate service.
Yeah.
And I really saw the power of a stranger. Now, behind all, and that was awesome, right? It was like after 30 or 40 seconds of real engagement where they felt known, and I was giving them 100% of my attention. It's like they didn't need the coffee. It's just their natural inner connectivity just picked up. And I didn't know this, but I found out later that all the businesses in the area called it the Magic Walk Cafe. You could have all the problems in the world, but then you walk to this cafe and talk to Tim, and all your problems magically disappear,
Yeah.
And obviously the problem was some form of disconnect inside of them, and then they got reconnected in this very natural way. Sunshine and lollipops, right? But behind all that, I got divorced. I had a COVID divorce.
Wow.
And you know, lost the business, house, home, um, money, regular access to kids, and it was it was in that shit sandwich where, let me just paint the picture. I was sleeping on the couch in my parents' um, house,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
After going through this experience that I never thought would happen. I just thought I'd be married for the rest of my life, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's 2 a.m. and I'm not sleeping. And even though I'm a breathwork coach and I knew that breathing would activate what's called my PNS, my parasympathetic nervous system, which means to slow me down. Okay. It would be my brake. I was accelerating so hard, I needed to slow down. I technically knew that,
Yeah.
but I saw then that my mind's like a garden, whatever I water grows. And I was watering the weeds of stress, and I was giving him so much resources that they grew bigger and bigger, and then eyeballs popped out of him, and they became sentient. They became aware of the things I did that fed them, and very aware of the things I did that starved them. And they
Yeah.
didn't want me to breathe. It's
Yeah.
like these stress weeds had me so locked down, and it's so weird. Even though I really needed it, it's like I couldn't. And in the middle of this pandemic, divorce, lost everything, I looked at my left thumb, Joe, and I said, Tim, you can take one breath, just take one fucking breath. And I drove it into my chest. It was like the first breath of my freaking life. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is working. Two, take two. I put two fingers into my chest, three, four, five, got to 10, got to 15, and somewhere between 15 and 25, all those stress weeds got kicked out. And the rest of my brain said, thank fuck you kicked them out. Keep
Yeah.
doing this. This is working.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't do that, I would have done what a lot of people did in that pandemic. Hit the pill, hit the drink, you know, hit the pills, or potentially have done self harm.
Yeah.
So in that kind of crap sandwich, um, I learnt the power, the how disempowering it is when you feel disconnected and alone,
Yeah.
but also how powerful connections outside of yourself start with powerful connections inside of yourself. And for me, the best gateway to that was just simple breathing. And you're talking to a guy that lost 6 years of his life to pills when I told a doctor I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
Zombified pill eater for 6 years, and I can't get that time back. And no one tells you the cost of taking these things. And I'm sure a lot of people, their medication went up during the pandemic. And the doctors are very quick to throw pills down your throat, but they don't tell you two things. And they certainly didn't tell me this. As much as there may be a benefit in taking them, there is also a massive cost.
Yeah.
Nothing for free.
Yeah.
And they also never tell you just how hard it is to get off this crap. You know, I almost went insane coming off this stuff. So yeah, that sort of, if you couple that with how I saw, if you want to control people and keep them thinking small thoughts, put them in fear.
Yeah.
And so the media was loving having this fearful cold and flu symptoms running around the world because then everyone's eyes were glued to the TV, and I've cut out mainstream media for the last 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
because when people say, oh, the world's a terrible place, and I'm like, do you really think that? Or is that just mainstream media talking
Yeah.
through your mouth? You've
Sure.
just become a puppet. So yeah, and so I gave up media because I just noticed that was again watering the disempowered weeds in my head,
Yeah.
and those weeds got to a certain stage until I wanted to watch the news.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, this stops here, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I saw how the media capitalized on fear, really shrunk people's thinking down, and I also saw the the destructive power of human disconnection, but also the incredible healing and how rapidly people can heal when they get connected back again into themselves, their others. Because at the end of the day, I think we're built for connection. Um, I hope that answers your
You
question, Joe.
totally did. Yeah, you totally got to the essence too of what your mission is. So let me ask you this. If I was to put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids at career day, third graders, 10, 11-year-olds, one of the kids in the room wanted to know what you do on a daily basis, how would you answer them?
Sure. So, those people that sometimes struggle to go to sleep or wake up at night and can't get back to sleep? Well, me and my team show them how to have the best night's sleep ever and wake up feeling amazing.
What did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But that was stopped when my brother said, because I told my brother, I want to be a marine biologist because I love the ocean. Even though I was where I grew up, it's the sort of the home of the great whites, great white sharks.
Yeah.
Um, In fact, just last week, someone got eaten there, and it was there, right? So I love the ocean, but I was terrified of it. And I told my brother I want to be a marine biologist, and he just went, "Tim, you're too dumb for that." And I believed him. I was dumb enough to believe him.
Yeah.
So yeah, growing up I was dyslexic growing up, but back in the 70s, the technical term for dyslexia was you're stupid, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so and you tell a kid that enough, you start believing it, and that was kind of me growing up.
Yeah. So you were in special ops. Take me back to your childhood. What were these seeds that were planted into you to have this strength, to have this vision, and to end up getting to a point where you're ultimately helping people sleep and making their lives better?
Well, it's funny in my dyslexic world, I it wasn't like I was stupid or I didn't have gifts to offer, but because I was telling myself I'm stupid, I'm no good, all those seeds of greatness lay dormant.
Yeah.
And then I started, when I started doing IQ tests in my 20s, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm actually doing really well
Yeah.
on these. Maybe I'm not as stupid as everyone says, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could have let my feeling of lack of self-worth stop all these wonderful gifts that I have flourishing in my life just because I let someone hurt me in that way. And then I'm like, how many other people, how much awesome potential is out there that we're not seeing? How much contributions from others are we missing out on because they've been hurt and they just need a little bit of healing,
Yeah.
and from that I thought, well, when people are hurt, often they're out of balance, and imbalances often show up with sleep.
Yeah.
Like I can kid myself during the daytime, I'm killing it, awesome, rah rah rah. But then at nighttime, there's a part of me that might say, you're not fooling me, buddy.
Yeah.
there's an imbalance here, right? And there was a time I used to drink a lot, take a lot of pills, right? But so within that, I believe the first step, and this is what made me very effective in the veteran space. Um, the first step in somebody's uh, recovery or step towards the life they want to have is doing something as simple as getting good quality sleep.
Yeah.
Um, and so if I had a gift to give anybody, it would be quality sleep. I can't do what you do, Joe. I can't do what the people listening can do. But if I can improve the quality of your sleep, then you're going to bring your gifts into the world um, so much more powerfully. You're going to be able to serve at your highest level. You're going to have more joy, more love, more peace, which is really hard to do um, when you're in a state of fatigue,
Yeah.
because one feeds the other. When I'm fatigued, I make bad decisions. My bad decisions make me more fatigued, and I'll compensate when like I used to with drugs and alcohol.
Sure.
Um, so that would that to me is a very yeah, my favorite saying is if you care about somebody, you care about how they sleep.
Yeah.
Um, and in the special forces, we used to weaponize this.
Yeah.
We didn't really know all the science behind sleep, but we knew if we took the enemy sleep out for 3 nights, it would mess them up better than a bullet.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you become highly suggestible when you're in a state of fatigue. Your higher thoughts can't kick in. You're reactive, and I believe a lot of the problems in this world would be seen in a very different light when people are well rested, they're not reactive, and they're seeing things from that higher perspective. That can only happen. That will what I say that doesn't happen when you're in this state of fatigue, in this sort of survival mode.
Yeah.
Hope that answers your question.
100% does. So let me ask you this. You're obviously highly driven. You got this vision. Who's been an inspiration? Who's been that hero for you to fuel you to evolve into who you are today?
Okay, Afghanistan 2009. We've been outside the wire for several weeks. It was beyond the point of fatigue. Um, I'd I'd lost brothers. We'd had limbs blown off others, and we were heading into this ambush, which is not unusual. But the what because the rear vehicle is least defended, it's the one that always gets attacked. And so, as we were going into this ambush, the order was given to put the heavily armored vehicles to the rear of the convoy. And as we were forming out, this heavily armored vehicle cut us off, and then we were in the rear of the convoy, the last vehicle, and all we had was we were just a 4-wheel drive with a roof cut off,
Yeah.
and everyone in the vehicle knew what was going to happen. Um, and I am working towards the person that made a difference in that moment. Uh, and so when that happened, I was initially mad as hell. This guy cut us off because he's looking after his own ass, you
Yeah.
know. I saw my own ramp ceremony where, they carry the fallen soldier down the ramp of the airplane, Australian flag over it. I saw my, weeping widow and kids, and I was so angry, upset. Um, you know, he is so wrong to do that. I'm right. But all those emotions were stopping me thinking. Um, but I asked a question, Joe, and this is kind of the golden question. And I think if anyone sort of wants to turn their life around, ask ask this question, and that is, who has done this before, and how did they get through it?
Yeah.
And in that moment, I'm like, I don't actually know anyone. And the night got darker, Australia seemed so far away. But then I started thinking outside my timeline, and I thought, you know what? I do know someone. The Anzacs. So we've got, Australia New Zealand Alliance, Anzacs World, going up the beach of Gallipoli. It's a famous battle for us. And I thought, yeah, what did those Anzacs do? They kept moving forward. Like the Turks knew they were coming. They were waiting for them. And these guys just kept moving forward. And Joe, that was like 100 years ago,
Yeah.
but they just became real in
Yeah.
that moment, in that very moment. I'd never met any of them. I just knew about what they did.
Yeah.
And what that did, it kind of opened up this portal in time. And on Anzac Day in Australia, we say, lest we forget,
Yeah.
lest we forget the sacrifices of those gone before us. But it was like this portal in time opened up, and these guys were poking me in the chest saying, Tim, lest you forget.
Yeah.
Lest you forget the power inside of you, lest you forget the power of looking after your mates. And I'm like, holy shit. It was like night turned into day. My whole body felt illuminated. Um, and 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 looking from the outside in, all I needed to know was someone who'd done it before,
Yeah.
like a regular human. Like those dudes going up the beach, they were just regular humans,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so think about that for a second. All we need to know as humans is to know someone who's done it before.
Yeah.
So I put it to yourself and everybody else, what if you were the person someone needed to know? All they needed to know was Joe, because Joe in that particular situation, he chose to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And that switched everything up in my head, being the person that people know. And you don't even have to be alive for that. And I'm like, maybe this is what immortality looks like,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, what a great answer. So let me ask you this. How do you balance all of this in your life? Being somebody that's illuminating something. I mean, we all sleep, but you're giving people the keys to a better sleep and a better life, but you have to evolve as a human being yourself. How do you balance all of this out and do it at the top of your game every day?
Great question. I believe in micro habits. It's the small things you do over time.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed myself, I'm pretty motivated dude, but I'll do things that are easy and comfortable for a lot longer than things that are uncomfortable and
Yeah.
hard, right?
Yeah.
So so these little micro habits that you can tweak in, um, breath work before going to bed, breath work getting out of bed. Okay. It's the same kind of, you're still breathing, but it's two different types.
Yeah.
One helps you slow down, and you got to remember, presence of oxygen is the absence of disease.
Yeah.
All right. So even if you get to sleep well, doing breath work before going to sleep will oxygenate your system before it does its deep clean as you sleep.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're talking to a guy with a lot of chronic injuries. So if I don't do my breath work, all my inflammation increases and I'm in a lot of pain. So it's quite a blessing to have chronic injuries, because I'm very aware of the things that work and don't work, because it kicks my ass, if
Yeah.
I get it wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, easy and effortless micro habits, and the kind of feeling of, oh, that felt good.
Yeah.
Let's have more of that. Oh, that felt really good. I'll have
Yeah.
more of that, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so that has evolved over time to, like, I knew I was going to be on this podcast this morning, and I wanted to serve at my highest level. So I had to remove all the blockages inside of myself. So well, I don't want to sound spiritual right now, but let's just talk about dealing with universal truth, okay?
Yeah.
Because universal truth you don't invent, you discover,
Yeah.
okay? And you discover it when you clear your own blockages out of the way.
Yeah.
And I've Chinese have been saying for thousands of years, first the body, then the mind. I believe our body holds a very powerful energy signature, but our body is a bit like a combination lock on the front of a safe,
Yeah.
where you've got to tumble it one way, tumble it the other way, and then you've got access. So my physical discipline is there to let that unique energy signature through,
Yeah.
and it's a hell of a realization to think, well, what if this world needs me to be the best version of me? It doesn't need me to climb a mountain, or I was a Australian title holder for certain fighting titles, blah, 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 whatever, right? It's not what you do that gives you value to others. It's what you've come through, but it's also what comes through you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to build on these micro habits, um, I made it an automated process. So initially, breath work in bed was just something I did for myself.
Yeah.
And I'd share these little recordings with other people, and they're like, holy shit, Tim, this is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because it's conveniently, it's not me that's powerful, it's your breath.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see myself as a breathwork coach. I'm the person that introduces you to the love of your life. you're going to start this loving, caring, nourishing relationship inside your own lungs that is going to be there anytime you want it. Your closest friend, your strongest ally. And I'm not just going to be blah blah blahing. At the end, we're going to do a technique, and so trust me, you're gonna get this is not a talk fest. It always annoyed me when I had PTSD. Would have all these academics coming in saying, "This is what we know about PTSD." The last 7 year study. I'm like, I fucking know. I live with it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Give me something I can take home and put in my coffee.
Yeah.
So I'm know that we're going somewhere, and I do want to deliver you something that will add permanent value to your life. But my morning routine um, starts with breath work.
Yeah.
And then, it's as simple as just hitting that little button on my phone. But then I'll actually get up on my roof and I'll see the sunrise. And I'm doing breath work as the sun rises. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know that first light has a certain frequency that once it goes through your eyeballs, it sets up a cascade of very powerful chemical reactions. And this is all automatic, but it has to be just as it's breaking the
Yeah.
horizon.
Yeah.
And it turns off basically all the sleep chemicals, wakes up the brain, wakes up the body, and you feel this very deep sense of connection, openness, and believe it or not, every now and then I'll actually full on cry. And I know I'm going to have a good day when tears come out of my eyes when I feel this wondrous energy there that's always been there for me and is and I can get to experience it to the level I let it in,
Yeah.
and I realize I've been blocking a lot of it most of my life.
Yeah.
So having that energetic relationship and starting my day from abundance, that then allows me to do what powerful humans do, and that's be generous.
Yeah.
So powerful people are generous people, but for years I was doing generosity wrong. So I was fortunate to grow up with very generous parents. They worked with very low socioeconomic sort of environments, like people that kind of lived under bridges.
Yeah.
And I saw this, I respected it so much, but I tried it and I couldn't do it. And when I was working in the veteran space, as much as I was getting a lot of results, people didn't know that every 6 or 7 weeks I'd have to hit the bottle really hard for 3 days because I was giving of myself. I wasn't giving of my abundance.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference in being generous, because when I was generous, giving of myself, if I was just adequate, if I was just at 100%, if I gave somebody 10%, I'm like, there's a part of me saying, oh, I'm down to 90%. You better do something with that 10%. And I attach an outcome, an expected outcome to my giving of that person. But here's what I found. When you really connect powerfully to yourself before you do anything else, and you're at 500%, you can give away 20% a day.
Yeah.
And people can love it, hate it, tell you to fuck off. It doesn't matter. The point is you're in touch with something so much more greater than what can be taken.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a hell of a switch up,
Yeah.
because we've all been taken from,
Yeah.
and I've been the guy that, I only had 50 cents worth of energy. Someone took 25 cents, and I'm like, fuck you, I've got to get that back. And I've spent years trying to get the 25 cents back, right?
Yeah.
But I forget the fact that I can generate $1 million the next day,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Yeah.
so my goal for myself and anyone I meet is to live like an energetic millionaire.
Yeah.
Have that state of abundance. Because if you're a millionaire and someone takes 25 cents, then you're like, whatevs,
Yeah.
man.
Right.
Stay there and play with it. So my strongest advice to anybody is, before you leave your house, what would it be like if you gave yourself everything you needed and you're in that place of abundance? And obviously life's going to happen. If you knew that at some point in the day you're going to be taken from, it makes a lot of sense to get into abundance, to get to that place of power and strength and peace.
Sure.
Because then you see those subtractions as in the perspective that they are.
Yeah.
Because I've been that guy driving to work, cursing at people in traffic, and getting angry was like, only having $2 in the account and writing a check for 100,
Yeah.
right? It just puts you further under. Yeah. I'm sort of wonder a bit here, Jay. So tell me if I'm off
No, no, no,
track.
no, no. You're good. No, I love the explanation. I love it, and it's knocking down other questions I have. So I'm curious, of all of this that you've done and accomplished and evolved to in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Look, my two kids are operating independently. Um, and it didn't always fare well for them, especially with the divorce when they were teenagers. So that is super cool. But within myself, as a 25-year-old man, I knew something was off inside of me. And if you go off the idea that, some people say humans are flesh and spirit, some people say that where there's parts of us that are seen and there's parts that are unseen. There was an unseen part of me, call it my spirit, that at just before 25 was very malnourished. There was something really not being met inside of me. And my physical body would mistake that for hunger. So I would eat a lot, I'd drink a lot, all these sorts of things, trying to find nourishment for this unspoken, unseen part of me. And I thought, well, if I'm going to really focus on my spirit, I need to tame my body.
Yeah.
So I fasted for 10 days before my 25th birthday. And I was working night shift. So and I thought at the end of these 10 days, I'd be like, some golden scroll would fall out of the sky and tell me what I was supposed to do as a 25-year-old, right? And I remember I just finished night shift and I got security to let me up on the top of the building. So I'm standing on top of this building and I'm seeing the sunrise. And this is probably the tallest building in the city, right?
Yeah.
And it was a glorious sunrise. And I'm like, it's going to happen. This scroll's going to fall out of the sky. Oh, and nothing happened, man. And I'm like, come on, like 10 days of not eating. What's going on?
Yeah.
And after I sort of picked my bottom lip up, I thought, okay, Tim, what do you know? What do you know? Okay, well, I know that I've got a concept of time of about 25 years.
Yeah.
And if I honestly ask myself, how long did this 25-year take me? I'm like that, like click your fingers, boom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit, Tim, that means you're going to click your fingers again. You're going to be 50.
Yeah.
So even if time machines exist, they're not going to reverse your age.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So what would the 50-year-old version of you say to the 25-year-old version of you? And the conversation went like this is, Tim, you've proven, you can live with not a lot of money. When I first came to Brisbane, I was eating out of garbage bins.
Yeah.
Okay. You've proven that you can live with people not thinking very much of you. But one thing you cannot live with is regret.
Yeah.
So I pictured myself as a 50-year-old living with this regret, and it fucking killed me.
Yeah.
Like it was the scariest thing I ever did. And fear is so powerful. There's going towards what you want, but there's also going away from what you don't want.
Yeah.
They did this really great experiment of this mouse. They attached like a little spring to its tail and they tested how much, neutrons of energy it took to pull towards the cheese, right? It was like 300 or something. But then they introduced the smell of a cat and it increased to like 1200, right? So there's something in that.
Yeah.
There's one thing to go towards what you want. There's another thing to know, this is what I do not want. As God is my witness, this is not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And so when I stepped down off the edge, off the right side of it, my body sort of jolted, and I've only heard two audible whispers in my life. One was in Afghanistan, one was there, and it said, "Turn up 5 minutes early."
Yeah.
And I instinctively knew that was turn up to training 5 minutes early. And I'm like, what, is that all I get for 10 days of not eating? But look, who am I to ignore the call of the universe or my own insanity?
Yeah.
And so I turn up to training 15 minutes early.
Yeah.
This is jiu-jitsu training, right? Early Brazilian jiu-jitsu in the 90s wasn't really a thing. But the point was I turn up early and I'm like, what the hell's going on? But then I start staring at the mat and this image starts coming out. I start seeing myself training how I want to train. When I get fatigued, I get a rush of more energy. When my coach says do 10 push-ups, do 10 of the best push-ups you've ever done, right?
Yeah.
And I saw it so clearly that when my body left me sitting on the side, it was like a vacuum seal. I got sucked into that vision. And what was happening, wasn't the fact that I was training, but for the first time ever, my mind and body were connected.
Yeah.
Because I'd trained for years, but there might only be a few minutes in the hour that I'd actually be connected 100% body and mind.
Yeah.
Okay, because my body contains mass, your body contains mass.
Yeah.
And this mass, in Australia, we're in kilos, you're in pounds. I'm only guessing you're about 195 pounds.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thereabouts.
That's
Okay.
about
So
it.
that's a measurement of mass, right?
Yeah.
And that's stuck in my time, 7:34 a.m. in the morning. Your time, it's a different time, right? But that's stuck because that's a measurement of mass. But
Sure.
there's something else we both own that's just as important, and that's a mind.
Yeah.
And if we put our mind on the scales, it wouldn't measure anything because it doesn't contain mass.
Yeah.
That's obvious, but important to note because without mass, our mind can go into the past and into the future.
Yeah.
Now, our minds aren't omnipotent. They have a processing power. Let's call it 100%. So
Yeah.
if there's something in my past that's taking up, processing power, that might be 30%, something I'm not at peace with or hurt or harm, 30%. So that gives me 70% right now.
Yeah.
If there's something in my future I'm worried about, that could be taking up 40%.
Yeah.
And that drops me back to 30% right now. Okay. So I might have been training for years, but I was only ever training at 30% because I wasn't actually taking the time to connect my mass to my formless,
Sure.
so to have that, I call it totality, where you're in that moment, nothing else matters. An hour seems like a second.
Yeah.
Um, and so this is what I tell people, healing isn't about, tofu and celery on a mountaintop. I mean, that's cool, but
Yeah.
that's not, it is about you performing at your best, you bringing your gifts into the world. Because if
Sure.
you're at 30%, imagine how many gifts you could bring into the world. Everything is hard at 30% because everything is hard at 30%.
Yeah.
Like if you're wondering why life is always getting harder, it's usually because the massless part of you is in the past and in the future.
Yeah.
To have that sort of totality is kind of rare for humans outside an extreme, oh my gosh, my loved one's under a car and I got to lift it or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally. So I don't want to run out of time. I know we're running low and you wanted to do a demonstration real quick. But before we do that, let everybody know how they can reach out, they can get involved, ask questions, any of the good business in your world. What do they do?
Sure. Well, I'm on all the socials, Breathwork in bed.
Okay.
The company website is Breathwork in Bed. You can contact me through there. I do workshops, one-on-ones, all that. But look, more than anything else, my goal is to add value to you.
Yeah.
So if you pull out your phone and go into your app store and put in Breathwork in Bed,
Yeah.
you'll get a 28-day free trial. And this app is made to serve you. It asks you two simple questions. When do you want to sleep? When do you want to wake up?
Yeah.
And then it just falls out of your phone. You just hit tap, play, and away. Because when people are tired, they say, look, I don't want to have to understand a whole new thing. Here's what I want. Take care of it for me.
Sure.
And so if people get anything from this conversation, really give that app a go and see what it's like to improve the quality of your sleep with this breathwork thing.
Yeah.
It's guided, it's easy. You just hit the button and away you go. So
Yeah.
so yeah, if more than anything else, look up Breathwork in Bed on your app store. That will be the biggest value add. And right now we're going to be doing. Unless you want to add anything more, we'll jump straight
Oh
into a
no,
bit of
we're
a.
good. Let's jump in.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you right now how to completely relax your body in 3 breaths. But
Yeah.
little secret, it's 3 proper breaths.
Yeah.
Okay. So Joe, if I asked how many laps around the sun you've done, you'd probably say however many years, right?
Right.
And for however many years you've been alive, you've been breathing a certain way.
Yeah.
Okay. So people need to be gentle on themselves when they're learning how to breathe properly because it can seem really weird because this is something you haven't done before. It's a bit like you've limped your whole life and everyone's limping, so it's normal.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna use all my breathwork coach powers to make this easy and effortless for you.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay. So the only requirement here is you're seated. You're not driving. You're not cutting up carrots. You can be laying down. But if you learn this, you're going to nail this for you and anyone that you come across that needs to connect back into their body and relax. You're going to be the one to bring this medicine into their life. So to start with, just breathe in and breathe out. Great. So we've become aware of our breathing. If you're into woo-woo, being aware of your breath is the first step to enlightenment. All right. But now what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in, but then we're going to breathe in again and again and again.
Okay.
Cool, cool. All right. So blow it out, 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 out. Now breathe in, and then breathe in again and again and again and again and again. And just let that out. Now, Joe, did you notice a little bit of extra space opening up here?
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're going to boost that now. What I love about my work is people have these incredible bodies, but they just don't know what they can do. And a lot of people don't know that in your fingers and thumbs, you've got turbo buttons.